Okay, that's the website I wanted to show you. A mentor and friend of mine suggested once that when you're the last person to speak and everybody has been sitting down for a long time, you should ask people to stand up. So please stand up, let's shake up a little bit. It's just to wake ourselves up and pick up the pace again. Okay, and having done that, having stretched our legs a little bit, you may sit down. Let me tell you a little bit about what I will be talking about, which might not seem to be very related to economy, but in my opinion, it really does. The doctor who was sitting next to me in the panel was telling us that it's impossible for our country to grow because 50% of our country is in poverty. And I think that is why we can grow, because there are so many things missing that we can do a lot to improve. So let me share with you a project that is very closely related to this. If you could go to the second window there and just scroll down a little bit so that you can see this presentation. I am the president and general director of a foundation called Educar Uno. That is our logo. I think you went too far. You went to the very end of my presentation. If you could come back. Okay, there it is. We're back to the beginning. And then click right there. Okay, I always like to thank, before beginning any presentation, to the organizations, government agencies, whoever helps me to make this a reality. And so these are some of our sponsors without whom we could never make this happen. Educar Uno, if I could summarize it, I would say that to us, education is the greatest hope of humanity. Without education, we have no hopes for improving. So, as president and CEO of Fundación Educar Uno, when I first started this project, it was about 14 years ago, and you might think that I was just a baby back then, but we decided that we should get close to people who already knew how to do this. We went to the US, we went to Cuba, we went to India, we went to many places. So let me tell you about something I found in India. When I was in India, when you meet someone that is doing something amazing relating to education, it doesn't matter if it's in the public sector or private sector, I always want to learn from them. So in India, I met a woman who had taken design thinking process, a process used by designers in most important universities in the world. And she, before being the director, before being a professor, she had used this methodology for herself because she was a designer. When she set up her school, she decided to use it with children because she figured it was a very, very easy system to implement. With only 4 stages, feeling, imagining, doing, and sharing, she realized that she could reach children and motivate them to prompt changes in their society. So to show you what this project is and how big it is worldwide, let me explain to you what the project is about. Feel, imagine, do, share. Here in Mexico, we are mostly focusing our attention on basic education. There are only 2 institutions that have had access to every institution in Mexico, and we are one of these institutions. So let me tell you how this process works. Imagine that I am the teacher and you are the students, and we are at the first stage, feeling. Tell me what you feel Mexico needs to be better. You tell me. Agents of change, democracy, and I could ask every single one of you, what do you feel is the one thing we need to make this country better in one word? Then imagine, how would you change it? Just think about what you feel. Imagine how we could make it happen. Maybe we could have more companies. Having a positive attitude and a long-term project for democracy. Awareness. Okay, so that is the second stage. We haven't spent more than 2 minutes in this, just asking 2 questions. Why is it so easy? Because human beings by nature, already know what the answer is. If I were a president, if I were the head coach of the national team, if I were this, if I were that, I would do this or that. But the truth is that doing, just the third step, is the hardest thing to do. So now my role as a teacher is to inspire you, to tell you that is a great idea. Now let's make it happen. Let's make it true. And then after you do it, we move on to the fourth stage, which is sharing, so that you inspire others. If you could do it, then someone else could do it. If we could all change the things that we don't like, then the world would be a better place. Let me make it more clear to you. We have three specific goals. Self-sufficiency is the first one. No child, no parent, no one involved in this project receives a single peso, a single cent to make it happen. Because the best thing you can give someone is self-sufficiency, to believe in him or herself. There is no money, not enough money in the world to meet every need that we have. But if we work together and we collaborate, then we can do it. So the first thing is self-sufficiency. The second thing is self-esteem. And the third one is very much related, a positive attitude. Of course I can change my circumstances. Of course I can change my community. So those are our three main goals. Let's see how we put them in action. There are many problems to solve in both Mexico and the world. I would say that none of these problems are impossible to tackle if we would bring every child together to do it. These kids, look at them. We are working on this project with children beginning when they're 5 years old and then up to high school, and now there are companies who are using it as innovation methodology in their board of directors. We started at a very poor location in the Estado de Mexico, in Chalco. So first feel, what do you need? Imagine it. We always need evidence of change happening, so we look at pictures of before and after. They sent us that picture, and they said, we need streets, we need roads. I'm sick and tired of falling into puddles of water every time I'm walking to school. So then, okay, imagine what can be done. And here we have the teacher talking to entrepreneurs, to politicians. And how did this happen? Because we set up a contest saying that the person who was able to manage to get others to participate in their project would get incentives and boosts to make it happen. Look at the picture on top. 5 children, 5 boys and girls who managed to get together all of their community to try to fix the road. And then, remember that I don't do anything. They managed to convince everybody to help fix the roads and the streets around their school, because the goal is not really the street. What matters to me are the 3 words that I told you: self-sufficiency, self-esteem, positive attitude. If at 10 years old you realize that it was possible for you to fix a road in your community, then what could you do when you're 25, for instance? That is the goal. Last year we had to come up with this presentation, and now it's not really 1 million students as I have up here. It's 1.5 million. It is not 10,600 projects, but 15,000, and I can show you pictures of each and every one of them. And it is in every single state, province in the country. This is an educational platform where I'm sharing you all of this information that is a little bit like Facebook. Let me go back to the first window. On the top right, you have my profile, friends, messages, and closed sessions. So because I have an account here, if I'm a student, I can talk to another student in Mexico City and tell them, well, what are you doing? Well, I'm doing road signals. Okay, so let's work together. So it's like a social network of proactive children around the country working on different projects. Let's go down, scroll down. All the names that you see here is the name of a teacher represents a school. We have 15,000 members. If you go to the 4th window, I think, we have that teacher. It's at Magdalena, and that is her school, Emiliano Zapata. That is one of the projects that she worked on with her children. Let's go to my PowerPoint presentation so that I can share this project. I think it is right here. Okay, well, there it is. This presentation was sent by that teacher representing those students, and they were doing something against bullying. If we work step by step, if we look at this presentation, we will see what children and teachers identified and how they tackled the problem. I will, however, go very quickly, but children have to send evidence of the work that they have been doing in order to be considered in the project. So they send us information constantly. If you go back to the website, I can show you that this is the teacher and her school. If you go to the 5th window, that's her school, Emiliano Zapata, I can find the information of where the school is. So we know that this is a real school, that these are real projects. Here, there are 2 projects, the old one and a new one. What does that mean? That there's a second teacher who is working as an agent of change in that community. If we could go to the last window that I have. Each one of those spots is a completed project. It doesn't mean that the child or the school has just signed up. No, this is a project that has reached a conclusion, a goal. This might be a project, a recycling project that was already materialized, or a project against bullying that already found results. Things that did not exist before these children started doing something. As I told you, 15,000 projects of change, 1.5 million people involved. What is the goal of this? If when you're 5 or 10 years old you're doing this, then what will you do when you're 25? What is an entrepreneur? To me, an entrepreneur is someone who can identify a need that hasn't been met, then imagines some way to solve it, makes it happen, and then shares. That is what, to me, being an entrepreneur is: finding a need, satisfying that need, doing it, and then sharing. Let me share with you a video that shows 4 schools of very different areas in the country. I had already left it open, so it should be right there. Okay. This video has 4 different schools with different socio-cultural and socio-economic backgrounds. One is private school, another one is a public school, from an indigenous community and from urban community. So we have 4 entirely different schools. Let's hit play so that we can see what the video shows. I don't know if you can get the audio for it. There's supposed to be sound with.
Diseña el cambio, sé el cambio. El proyecto consiste de invitar a niños de entre 10 y 13 años para que sientan 4 cosas muy sencillas.
Rural school.
Buenos días todos.
Good morning, students. Good morning. I'm a teacher of bilingual education. I decided to become a teacher because our rural communities are forsaken, completely neglected. So the first activity that we will be doing today is the following. You will discuss in teams what are the biggest problems we have in our community. They are 10 to 12 years old. Discuss the problems that you identify in your community. Then this is the urban school, talking about stray dogs. Stray dogs is the problem that they're mentioning. I hadn't thought about that, but that's something that they see every day when they go out of school. In my community, there's a lot of trash in the streets, a lot of wastes, also many stray dogs that really affect us because they can bite us, and also fast food because it's very bad for you. And this is a private school. Well, a problem is that sometimes
Los animales, que hay muchas personas que compran un perro y
¿Saben qué es lo que hace? ¿Saben qué es lo Sí me preocupa el mundo, porque así cuando ya es de noche ya no puedes andar en las noches porque ahí te pueden agarrar.
que los compran, se portan mal, le cortan una oreja, ven un perro callejero en la calle, le avientan aceite, como que no se vale.
Las niñas de 11 a 19 años embarazadas, y yo creo que es por falta de cultura, también porque le quieren hacer daño a sus papás.
Sí me preocupa el mundo, porque así cuando ya es de noche ya no puedes andar en las noches porque ahí te pueden agarrar. O así, porque algunos ya se drogan y ya no saben qué es lo que hacen.
Recolectar el agua de lluvia y así podremos lavar ropa o lavar el patio.
Agua de lluvia. Recolectar agua de lluvia. Tenemos acá.
Yo soy el maestro Juan Carlos Villanueva Ruiz. Trabajo en la escuela primaria profesor Heriberto Enríquez.
El concurso como tal me parece fantástico. Necesitamos tomar la conciencia de que podemos hacer algo, de que podemos cambiar las cosas.
A mí me interesaría que ustedes en cada uno de sus proyectos lográramos todo a partir de dos cosas importantes. La participación a partir
Ir a los albergues.
Poner un cartel para reciclar mis cosas.
Que ponga 2 botes de basura, uno orgánico y uno inorgánico.
Poner lámparas para que vean.
Yo haría una reunión para platicar sobre los problemas de la comunidad.
Y hacer que todas las personas donen, así como el cartón que ya no utilicen, el plástico, y ya lo podríamos así como reciclar y para que se vuelva a utilizar.
Yo soy la profesora Adriana Vega Guerrero, trabajo en la secundaria 5, licenciado Adolfo López Mateos. Me siento contenta de que mi escuela haya sido elegida para participar en el proyecto Diseña el Cambio. Un niño crece intelectualmente cuando se involucra.
things that they are interested in solving. So he will be explaining the problems. There are problems like drug addiction, teen pregnancy, mistreating of animals, animal abuse. These are the problems that are created because the school and the homes are not working together. So what we need to do is we need to draw a road that creates solutions. This wall exists because there were solutions in mind, but there were no actions to make those solutions happen. So that is why that wall was built as an obstacle. But now that we do have solutions and we can start carrying out actions, we will tear down that wall and we will build a road that leads us to solutions that go from the school to our homes so that we can create a positive impact, a road that can be used. So that's what they were imagining. But you already heard it. The problem is not thinking about solutions, but building the road, making it happen. So now we will see what they did. The first school, and you will see it there, they're working with their parents. And what they decided to do was to fix the tunnel that they used to get to school. And the idea was that children who are coming through that tunnel will no longer have problem as they walk through the tunnel.
Ya no tengan complicaciones para pasar por ese
I have seen underprivileged children. I have seen that education is a problem for them. What you heard a girl say was that they couldn't go out at night because people would grab them in the tunnel. We also have to make people understand that vandalism and drug addiction are bad. goal is not really the project itself, but to show the power that you have. And this is what was great about this school, how they started creating games in their courtyards. They bought the paints and they started painting and making things better. And then the last stage, which is share what you learn, inspire others. Hello, my name is Paula Telles. I'm the coordinator of primary education, and this project, Designing Change, really reaches the heart of children. It reaches the heart of the staff that works on it, of parents, of the whole community, which to me is very worthy. As a mother, this was a very positive experience to me. It was very important as bringing my child closer to the problems that we face in today's world, in today's society. And it also helped me to support him even better. And that is what became of the tunnel. What do you think of this project? I thought it was very beautiful and very positive. Why? Why do you think it was a good project? Because this is something that my daughter thought about. It was her idea. She wanted to put herself into this project. I thought it was nothing more than just a school project, that it was never going to come true, but it did. And how do you feel about your daughter? I feel very proud. If you could hit pause. So who do you think changed the most, the daughter or the father? This project has a lot of impact, and if you could go back to the internet site, the children were given nothing but 4 words to think about, and they came up with 15,000 projects. But I think the father changed the most, the mother changed the most, because it is the parents who usually think it's not possible to make a change. We have lousy governments, we have lousy politicians, but the truth is we can all be instruments and agents of change. And with very little, we can do a lot. Let me tell you something that is very interesting and something that makes me as a Mexican feel very proud. Even though I do consider myself a citizen of the world, but of the 40 countries that are now implementing this project, we are one of the biggest, the countries that participate the most in this, the greatest number of entrepreneurs are Mexican kids, even though we have bigger countries that we are participating in, and I love this. I don't want to bore you anymore, so I will just leave it at that. Thank you very much for your attention. I have a question. Yes, we do have time for questions and answers. What is the situation in other Latin American countries, Argentina, Peru, Ecuador? The agreement was that we would help implement this platform in all of Latin America. There are other countries in Latin America that are using the platform, but something that we did in Mexico that was different to what other countries is that we're just 5 people. It's a very small project, but what we can do, we do based on partnerships and alliances. And I think that in those other countries, they haven't managed to have 3 to 5 people that really focus on having a countrywide impact. We haven't been able to share it to other countries that this project is so good that it should be taken advantage of. I, for instance, I don't feel satisfied with these 15,000 projects because I think we can do so much more. We can never settle for anything less. We need to keep growing. We need to be better. In every country, we have given everybody access to our documents, to our past experiences and our lessons learned, but we need leaders to really take this project and make the project theirs and make it grow. I don't know, in communities in Chile, for instance, in Brazil. Yes, we have presence in Brazil, and it is actually sponsored by Petrobras, if I'm not mistaken. It's a very interesting project. Thank you very much. All of our funds come from our sponsors. We are a non-lucrative organization, so we depend on donations. Something that's very important to us is finding how to make this project sustainable. We have been invited by many institutions and educational institutions to go train teachers to make the project bigger and give them more tools around schools. So we created a seminar of 120 hours for the Ministry of Education, and we sell it at 4 times a lower price than most seminars that are sold in schools around the country. We never expected such a positive response from teachers, but 2,700 teachers received training, and we were paid to train them, and that has given us a lot of funds in the foundation. But yes, we are a non-lucrative institution. Any other questions? I'm sorry, I think there's a question over here. I think that what's very important is importing and exporting knowledge, in this case not a project but a methodology. When we talk about trade relations between countries, it doesn't always have to be trade or exchange of a product or technological service, as might be telephony or call centers or whatever. I think what your project shows is how knowledge and methodology can also be imported and exported, and I think this area could be explored much more. So I would like you to share a little bit of your experience. When I found out about this project in India, and it was only being implemented in this city where this designer, this woman lived, and I said I want to turn this into a worldwide project, and thanks to that interaction, and she is a wonderful teacher, she's brilliant, she's very charismatic. I actually think of myself more as an entrepreneur than anything else. Not really an educator, but because I was an entrepreneur, I managed to make this project bigger, and I told her this shouldn't be an Indian project, this should be a global project. We need to take it everywhere. So what we tried to do was take the platform, everything that we have learned of how to make this project very well structured and very big. This is a platform that we are now giving away to the countries who want to get involved. Let's say that you're in Brazil. Do you like this interaction between teachers, students? Well, I want you to have it. I want to keep on growing, so I want you to have it in Brazil, or in Chile, or in Colombia, or wherever. And I want you to see, and I want children to see, that they're not alone in the world, that everybody can set out on a new project. So this isn't a product, but we do want to export it, to take it everywhere, so that others can follow the methodology that has been so successful and that can inspire even more people. How hard was it to interact with the original creator of the idea in India? To me, it wasn't hard because there was a lot of empathy. We seemed to see eye to eye since the day we met. A friend of mine introduced me to her because she had taken a course with her. And as you saw, Educar Uno is all about education. So when I went over there, I had never seen a school in India, and we saw that they were very self-sufficient, they had a lot of self-esteem, and that's exactly what we wanted. Then, of course, there were things in which we did not see eye to eye, but the one goal that I had is just saying that we had to take it everywhere. It couldn't just stay in India, and it could be taken to different environments. Even here, we find so many different environments, but this is almost like a religion. There are so many different things. There are different languages, there are different religions, but at the end of the day, we speak pretty much the same language. The woman that I worked with was a wonderful woman, open woman, global woman. She knew that we needed to work together to create something, so it was easy for me. But it wasn't so easy when I was trying to explain to someone else, you cannot give the project to a country if they don't have the potential to make it grow, because even if they're very passionate in a particular community in a country, they don't really have it in their hands to make it bigger, to make it nationwide, to make it national. So that is one thing that we did agree on. We need to find a way to make sure that this platform can be applied at a grand scale in every country. So when I talked to people, it was a little bit difficult because sometimes there were teachers who were used to working with their school, with their children. How could you get this woman, this teacher, to go talk to their government to make it bigger, to create a business plan? Even if it's not really a business plan per se, they needed to come up with a plan that they could take to higher levels. And that was difficult, but I think we have managed to make it work. Alfonso, I would like to congratulate you for your vision. I really liked this. Around the world and here in Mexico, there are many foundations that try to make things better, but I think this project is different. The goal might be the same as others have, which is just help humanity. And betting for the future, for children. But you talked about the methodology and the goal and exactly how you support the school, exactly how you can materialize this goal, this road to doing things. I'm sure there's a stricter methodology that you follow, which you didn't share with us. And I say this because I am from Veracruz, and in Veracruz there are many schools that have been neglected for many years, especially in rural areas, and I have come in contact with them. Nothing changes there. It seems like they're living 100 years ago. So I think that this is a revelation, a project that could help. So I have a question. Your website is www.disenelcambio.com. Can I find all of the information that I need there? But if I wanted to come into contact with you personally or with specific schools, can I find it there? Yes, all of our contact information is there. And of course, if you can have direct access to me through Manuel, feel free to give me a call. I will very gladly answer any question that you have. I want to say that, yes, we're very proud of everything that we have done, but I know that we can do much more. Now we have permission to nationally get involved in any school that wants to do it. But how can we do it? We have sent a brochure to every school. That much we have done. But very often there are many schools who get the brochure and they throw it away. So we need to find ambassadors, we need to find people who allow us to come into contact with local governments, because they are the ones that are in charge of schools in the different areas, just to promote the project. We don't want them to do it for us. We don't want them to do our job for us, but we like to set up meetings with representatives from schools and from government to present the project to them and hear who wants to participate, and then we can come in. So you asked me about my methodology. What do we do? First, we started nationally, because this country is a very vertical structure. If you don't have the approval from the top, you will never get in. But we have that. We have that national, federal approval. Then we look for local governments, then we look for local ministers of education so that they get to know the project and they can invite schools to participate. I am not a politician, but if I were, this is how I see it. And this is what perhaps I have failed to do, which is establish a more empathetic relationship with them. But if I were a government and I see this, 4 words, they're not asking me for a single peso. The only thing I have to do is promote it in schools. If I were a governor, I would just call for 1 teacher per school, just a single teacher per school, who will be willing to share these 4 words with their students and come up with at least one project of change. If we do that, we can reach the 100% of national public education schools, because we have very good coverage around the school in Mexico, just 1 year, with pictures of evidence of real schools with real teachers, real students. I would do it. If I were a governor, I would do it. I'm not a governor. I don't speak their language. I don't understand them. But we need to find a way to reach them, to explain to them what advantages that could bring to their state. To me, educating is empowering. It is giving people the tools to do things on their own. To me, this is the most important tool that I have found. Ways to prompt changes. So that is something that we need. Then another difficult thing of Diseñar el Cambio, you had 5,000 projects just this year. How can you go over all these projects if this is a project based, or this is a project that 5 people do? How could we do it? We established alliances with public universities and students working on their community service internships in public universities here. We trained them and we got them to help us analyze the results. So that's what we do. And one of the reasons we have managed to be successful is because we establish partnerships and alliances. Right now, I am trying to get the contacts, partnerships, and alliances. And my father used to tell me that if I knew how to sell myself and my project, then everybody would be on my side. So I know that I am not very good at communicating this. We have tried to reach CEDESOL, the Ministry of Social Development, and what we have tried to tell CEDESOL is it's very good to give assistance in terms of, I don't know, food that people need, to people who don't have access to food. But after you do that, after you have fed people, it can no longer be a program of assistance. You have to give them methodology. For instance, we have invited CEDESOL to make them come up with projects in exchange for food, for instance. But they haven't done it. Well, if there's anybody here who can help me approach CEDESOL, I would be the first one there. So if anybody has the contacts to help me get there, I will go there and give them this presentation. I would like to congratulate you, and I would like to share my experience. I think this project is brilliant. But perhaps it would be a good idea to develop different ways of educating. We talk about higher education in India that is very good, but that it is also very elitist. It excludes people. People don't go from primary education all the way up to higher education. So I have a family, I have my father-in-law who started helping children out in the streets in very rich areas in Delhi, and through volunteers, because they don't have money, now they do have a foundation and all these things, but they set up a school like this. A school where children could identify each other because they were forgotten by the whole country structure. And they visited different areas of Delhi. Now they have night school because they work during the day, but they have a music program. They go and they sing out in places where there would never have been access to that. They also started working with NGOs, and so every year they have a soccer tournament in all of Delhi. And those NGOs were the ones that made the government realize what was happening. My older sister invited them to participate in their projects, health and education projects, so I just wanted to share that. Okay, well, if there are any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them whenever you ask me. Thank you very much. Alfonso Romo Garza La Güera. A question for you and everybody. There is a word that is integrity. When the human being understands the meaning of this word, the world, as we saw in this presentation, will change. The word is alterity. It comes from alter ego. So alterity is a holistic word, comprehensive word that implies putting yourself in the shoes of another, and not only in the shoes of another, but in someone else's soul and spirit. Everything that is happening in the world with all the structural changes, all the fiscal changes will make our country a different Mexico, an entrepreneur Mexico. I have a thought that I want to share with you of what I think an entrepreneur is from everything that I have read throughout my life as an agent of change. It is all summarized in these words, which I will be reading to you. It's a thought that the brother of a governor of Nuevo León came up with, was the director of a company before I was even born. And it says, what is an entrepreneur? It says, I know not an entrepreneur who lives stress-free, who can get a good night's sleep. I don't know a single entrepreneur who lives a placid and happy life. Managing a company is a very difficult art. It is very harsh, and it is only for true men, because entrepreneurs are constantly resented because they have to meet quality social standards. They are reproached in the employer-employee relationships. They are reproached so that they bring back down their costs, so that they don't sell to foreign competitors. They are reproached because they can't keep up with technology. They are reproached because they have money, and they are reproached because they don't have enough capital to make them the best entrepreneur in the world. They are reproached for not paying enough taxes. They are reproached for paying too low wages. They are reproached for not growing as fast as the imagination of people who know nothing about companies and industry expect them to grow. They are reproached for everything that they failed to do. Mexico needs more entrepreneurs. Mexico needs very good entrepreneurs. Many good entrepreneurs, and the Mexican government has to defend, train, prepare, and make its entrepreneurs better so that they can be successful, because they are essential to create jobs and production centers. Entrepreneurs, through plants and workstations, are the most important vehicles for wealth redistribution. Companies are the best instrument of social justice, and companies are also the best way to guarantee progress, a democratic and balanced progress that brings social justice amongst our inhabitants. Every new project creates problems, is an area for conflict, but it's also a challenge, and it's also a responsibility. We hope that in Mexico and in the whole world there will be more and better entrepreneurs. These are the words of Guillermo Martinez Dominguez. I really want to congratulate you, Mr. Romo Garza La Güera, and it is my pleasure on behalf of all of us, UC&CS Global and UC&CS America, for your contribution as a speaker in the 15th Annual Partners Conference 2014. It's been a pleasure to have you here, and we would like to congratulate you because you are a true entrepreneur and because you understand what the world needs, which is education. So congratulations.